So you all know who I am, Paul Brock, Kiwibank. This is a very exciting moment for Kiwibank and for Gareth Morgan Investments, and I have some news today, which is that Kiwibank is purchasing Gareth Morgan Investments. It's a very exciting time for Kiwibank and for Gareth Morgan Investments. This is a great opportunity and continues to be part of Kiwibank's growth story. We continue to grow and obviously develop the bank into new markets. Part of developing that bank into new markets is looking for new opportunities in those markets, building our capability and building the strengths that we have and need to develop into the future. So we're very excited by this. It's a great opportunity for us and for Gareth Morgan Investments, and we see some very common values between the two organisations, both being New Zealand companies, and very transparent in the way that we approach our client relationships. So this is a great opportunity and a great step forward for the two organisations. So that's the news. I'll hand over to Gareth just to make any sort of comments that you might like to make, Gareth.
Thanks very much, Paul. Yeah, it is quite exciting, to say the least, from my perspective. I have to say, I initiated the sale process. I did it because GMI has grown exponentially, really. It's quite a big company now. We've got 50 people back there, and to be perfectly honest with you, I don't want to have to run 50 people. That's too many. Right? I can handle about 10, and then I fall off the rails a bit, find it a bit stressful. I mean, my passion in this space is investment portfolio strategy. It's making portfolio managers do what portfolio clients deserve. And I'm a major portfolio client myself, and that's how GMI actually started, was to essentially look after my own money. And then it just sort of grew out of hand, really. And so what I've been finding the last couple of years is that too much of my time is taken up with what I would call my non-core sort of competency areas. You know, I'm just not good at dealing with everybody's personal problems. And though, while I've got a great team back there, I simply want to focus on investment strategy insofar as the sector's my interest in the sector is concerned. So this deal does that. I mean, where I started was to say to myself, okay, you have enough. If you're going to sell the firm, what do you require of anybody that's going to purchase it? You know, what would make me leave my money here as a portfolio, you know, my portfolio with the company? So I sort of sat down, had a conversation with myself, blank sheet of paper, and essentially what I came up with was the values that we bought the company on. Now, I think one of the most exciting aspects of this deal is that Kiwibank have signed up to those values. And though I've got 7 of them, I'm quite happy to share those with you later, but they all essentially relate to accountability to the client. So I said to myself, well, if I can find somebody who will sign up to things like fiduciary duty, and actually say that explicitly to each and every client regularly, and make sure all clients can see all the way through to the ultimate securities they own, so they're not hidden. There's not an opaqueness there. The transparency is not obfuscated by unitisation, that sort of stuff. All the stuff I've been banging on about, right, the last few years. Then I'll sell to them. I can't sort of believe it, really. Kiwibank has signed up to those, and they're pretty keen. So that's, in my book, the first institution here to do that. Long may it last. So from here on, I stay with the firm. I focus in on the investment strategy team, which is my core area, and innovation, I guess, and essentially customer service levels. That's my role. So yeah, pretty excited to have that monkey off my back. Thanks very much.
Okay, well, I'll just go forward questions, if I may. Firstly, from within the room, and then I think we'll move to questions from the teleconference. So firstly, within the room, any questions?
How much did this deal cost, Kiwibank?
The price of the deal is confidential between the two parties, so we won't be disclosing that today.
What about broad range, tens of millions of dollars?
No comment.
Are you hoping to improve the performance of Kiwibank for KiwiSaver for clients that have already signed up with GMI?
Yeah, look, I think probably at the end of the day, that's always a focus for managers, both investment performance and, of course, wealth preservation as well, for those that have the wealth in the funds. So that will remain an ongoing focus for them.
Will the GMI team be taking over Kiwibank's KiwiSaver?
Yeah, just in terms of that, Kiwibank has a KiwiSaver operation today. We largely outsource a lot of the management of that. We're working through those details. Clearly, we don't have a lot of capability in the wealth management space today. This is part of the reason for doing the deal, so there's great opportunities to think through those sorts of issues as we move
So
forward.
it's a possibility that you bring it in-house now?
Yes, it's a possibility.
So how has Kiwibank's KiwiSaver performed against GMI's KiwiSaver?
I don't have all the details, I'm sure we can give you that later on, but in terms of performance, the two KiwiSaver schemes obviously are focused on growing the schemes and also growing and managing the funds for the clients. Clearly the world's been through some difficult times over the last few years. I couldn't give the specifics of the performance against the two schemes over the last little while. And I don't really want to go into that right now.
Will GMI stay as a standalone operation and retain its branding, or will it be sort of merged within the...
Yeah, good question. I think, we've had quite a lot of success in various companies that we've acquired to run them as standalone operations, and in this case it will run as a standalone operation. And that's really important to us because it's a key piece of capability that we are acquiring, and we intend to grow that business. And effectively what it will become is our wealth management division for the company. Branding is yet to be worked through. Well, those are all issues for the future. I mean, I think really the key thing is that we've developed through this very positive arrangement the significant enhancements in our capabilities to be able to run things in-house, and also it gives us a mandate to continue to grow that, and clearly the Kiwibank brand and also our distribution coming to the table means there's great opportunity. We have 800,000 clients roughly today, and we can bring a lot of opportunity to this, both for our existing customers and for new customers that intend to join Kiwibank as we move forward.
What about other staff? Gareth, you and Andrew are coming over. What about the other GMI staff if you have 50?
Yeah, that's right. Well, as Paul said, we basically become the wealth management division for the bank. So there's no planned redundancies at all. I would hope that I run a shop that's efficient enough not to have surplus people in it. So yeah, I've talked to the staff this morning, and that's the message that's gone out, essentially, that we just keep going, business as usual. GMI's competence obviously is in the private wealth management. That's what we do. That's essentially all we do. The area of current overlap between us and Kiwibank is in the KiwiSaver ownership. And that's, in terms of our business, that's about quarter of a third of our business. Yeah, and if I just talk about KiwiSaver, I mean, from a Kiwibank perspective, the reason we are even talking about this is both the private portfolio management but also the KiwiSaver. We see significant opportunities in the KiwiSaver market. We believe that, and certainly Treasury figures from governments suggest that the size of the market today is about 9 billion. We expect it to get to about 60 billion within 10 years' time. And that's obviously an opportunity to make sure that we can add more value to New Zealanders that are participating in KiwiSaver. And so that's a key focus for us, to make sure that we're set up to be able to achieve that. To do that, we need to build our capabilities. You either do that progressively over time, or you look for opportunities to join with other partners to make sure that we can deliver that, and that's what we're doing in this case.
Paul, were you looking for opportunities like this when Gareth came
Look, we're always open to opportunities as to how we might add more value to our client base, and in that broader diversification of the bank into new markets. So we're always looking for opportunities, although I think in this case it's a very unique opportunity because we share common values, and that's a very hard one to find. So it's not just about the commercial side of the deal. At the end of the day, it's about the transparency to the clients and a commitment to make sure that we deliver good value as far as the fees are concerned, that we run our businesses efficiently, and that you can actually see where your investments lie.
But in terms of this kind of business, were you looking to sort of build it up in-house?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we were looking to build this business. We were open to how we did it.
Gareth, can you run us through the 7 values that you wanted Kiwibank to have?
Yeah, all right. If you've got the time, I'll do that. I've got a list of them somewhere. Here they are. So, no unitisation, if possible. So that means that you can see the actual securities you own. No compromise on individual property rights via pooling. So that puts unit trusts in problems, and then that's what happened with ANZ, so that's what you were first out the door with best dress. I got all the cash left, everybody holding the lemons. I don't like that in terms of equity of holders. A declared renewal of fiduciary values to every client every year. Transparency over the operation of the business we have a subcommittee at GMI called our ARCS committee, as audit risk compliance, any acronyms, audit risk compliance subcommittee, and that actually has clients on it, expert clients that have full transparency over the workings of the firm and over the property, where the title to the property is held. We're going to keep that, and actually we're in the process of strengthening and expanding that, so that's one as well. Total see-through I've talked to. We've got investment management discretion as a manager. That's I'm talking private portfolios here, but it's only on the conservative side. So if you say you want 80% on stocks, I can't take you to 84, but I can take you to 0 if I want. And that's the point Paul was making earlier, that wealth preservation is number 1 here. Wealth enhancement is number 2. And when I hear you people talk about performance, every now and then I get a bit angry, because all you're actually talking about is past returns. You're not talking about risk. Should we talk about the performance of South Canterbury Finance? The returns were fantastic. Pity about the performance. There is a difference. Right? It's no good getting a return if you lose your capital in the process. So looking after the exposure to risk is a huge part of this business. And I don't think that the literacy on that in New Zealand is very strong at all. And we're the only manager here, the only KiwiSaver manager actually that adheres to GIPS, which is the Global Investment Portfolio Standard, which is 70% of fund managers in the US, Australia and the UK do it, and we are the only ones in New Zealand. So we have a set of values that we're very defensive of, very proud of, and as I say, Kiwibank have signed to those and agree with us, and that's a huge breakthrough. So we have basically 2 New Zealand challenger brands, I think is the word we've been using, joined together, so we have New Zealanders working for New Zealanders in New Zealand. Isn't that cool?
If I could just add quickly to that, I mean, my view is clearly from the very start of Kiwibank, and I have been involved since the beginning, one of the key principles we stand by is really the values of doing what's right, making it easy, and ultimately raising the bar. And I think in the case of Kiwibank, that's what we've done in the banking market. We now want to continue to do that through this arrangement into new markets, and obviously that's a great opportunity for both of us. So we align really well.
Sorry, do you think this deal will entice more clients over to Kiwibank away from the Aussie banks?
Look, I think, well, we continue to grow our business in terms of clients leaving the other banks. Really what I like to focus on is how we can continue to raise the bar within Kiwibank to make more people want to join Kiwibank. And today we continue to grow, we're growing strongly, and we continue to have more and more people looking at their banking arrangements. And when I say banking arrangements, it goes right across the board. So we are seeing strong growth in our own KiwiSaver. Gareth is seeing growth. That growth we expect will continue. I expect also that this will have flow-on benefits to the wider offering for Kiwibank. We have many customers now that have broad relationships and broad complex financial needs that bank with Kiwibank. So this will now give us a great opportunity to further meet the needs of those clients. So yes.
Gareth, you said that you can't believe that Kiwibank was signing up to what your values in this. Why not?
Well, because it's not the standard institutional approach. I mean, the institutions generally have been, as a club, quite jealous of protecting, the interests of their firm over and above the interests of the clients. And I don't like that. I mean, the GMI was built for my portfolio. That's where it came from. It just got out of hand in terms of the growth, because I sort of figured, well, I can do it for myself, I can do it for the next guy.
But you were looking for a partner anyway.
Yeah, well, as I say, it became a bit onerous looking after, 50 people, and that's not really what I really like to do. Much as I love them, 10's about my limit, and I lose my balance after about that. So, I just outgrew. We just outgrew what, I'm capable of controlling.
So do you think there might have been any other potentially large institutions that would have agreed to this?
Well, it comes back to that comment, I'm pretty surprised that, and absolutely flattered, and I think it's a marvellous breakthrough for New Zealand. The Kiwibank has signed up to these values explicitly. You go and try and find another institution that'll do it. Good luck.
How difficult is the KiwiSaver market at the present time in terms of attracting people?
Well, you've had the first flush, of course,
Yeah.
because most people are in who would voluntarily want to be in. You've also had stagnant markets, and the standard comment you get a lot in that market from the mums and dads. I could have made more money in the bank, and you say, yes, welcome to the world of investment. They go up and down. You understand what down means and what long term means, and there's a huge education job in here. But I've got huge confidence in all people, in the public. If you get the right information in front of the public, give them full knowledge, they're incredibly rational. So it's all about giving them that full knowledge, and that's really been the mission we've been on.
So I take it then that you can now say that they're using Kiwibank's distributions network. Obviously this now gives you greater ability to be able to get to people.
Absolutely, confidence. Because we're very much an online business, just about exclusively online. And Kiwibank, has got what we haven't got. So there's an amazing synergy there.
We see a great opportunity to continue to educate New Zealand as it relates to financial literacy, and there's a great opportunity within the bank customer base to do that. We see the money going in and out, just like they see the investments and whether they're growing or developing or being retained over time. So there's a great synergy and opportunity there, which is why banks, and in particular Kiwibank, look to this market to see where and how we can add more value here for our client bases.
How important is it then having Gareth's name attached to it and being able to convince people that this would be good to go?
Well, I think what's important is to having really strong investment strategy and having strong skills in that area. And obviously a key component of that, we wouldn't have done the deal if we didn't think that was what we were buying here.
What sort of growth targets then are you looking for?
Well, I wouldn't want to put a number on that today. I think, really we continue to grow strongly. Both brands are growing strongly at the moment. So my view would be we would continue at least at that level and look to accelerate it over time.
And your market share at the present time?
I think combined between the two of us, I wouldn't want to put a percentage on it because I think the base keeps moving, but we're probably this would put us at about number 6, I think, in the market.
With the performance indicators and fees indicators, GMI doesn't really release their performance and fees indicators the same as the rest of the industry. Will that change?
I'm glad you said the same, because we do actually release them. They're on the website. We've got full transparency on that. We're the only ones that comply to the GIPS standard. That's our problem with the Morningstars and the fund sources of this world. They basically work for the industry, and they produce you manipulated returns that are not comparable. I'm on record over and over and over again on this. That's the reason we don't join into that thing. But the data's there. It's absolutely there on the front page of the website.
It's quite hard to compare then GMI and the rest of the industry.
It's actually possible to compare the rest of the industry, actually.
To GMI?
The data at Morningstar between provider A and provider B is crap.
Right, so...
And I've written heaps on it, so just read it.
So would you want Kiwibank to outline their performance and fees indicators the same as...
the standard in the industry.
I agree with that.
We can make it comparable.
I think a key component is raising the bar here, and probably a big part of that is making sure that we can have conversations with customers about it. So it's not just about comparing yourself to everybody else. It's actually about doing what's right for the client.
But in order for KiwiSavers though, they'd like to be able to compare KiwiSaver providers to each other in a fair way. I mean, will you now be changing your performance indicators?
We're not going to comment on whether we're changing things. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone wants to know how things are going for them. And that happens down at the client level, and you make sure that you can see that from your own perspective. Now then there's a broader issue about how people are disclosing and presenting things across the whole industry. So at the end of the day, of course you want to see how well it's going for you and whether your wealth is being preserved, and in some cases whether it's been grown. But that's part of individual client relationships. It's not necessarily something that has to be sort of compared to every other person out there. You are doing your best for that client.
So is this an issue that you think the Financial Markets Authority should be paying greater attention to?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I mean, let me give you a really simple example so you can just get my point here. You've got two funds. One's a property fund, owns the building, right? And the other owns a share. Owns shares, so the mark to market every day. So the one that owns the shares, mark to market, the price goes up and down every day. The one that owns the building What does the price of that building do week to week? You haven't got a clue, and yet that's what's in the Morningstar reports. They just take whatever the owner of that building says the value of this building's doing.
Could you?
Now, I know you want it simplified, but you know, you've got to focus where the problem is. And the problem is on those providers and the people who compile that data who aren't doing an honest job. They do not conform with the GIPS standard.
So there's
And
work
that-
to be done.
There's big work to be done to lift the standard in this country.
Right. So you'd completely rule out even releasing both sets of comparisons? Or?
But they're not comparable, that's my point.
Mm.
How can you compare a building that doesn't change until it's sold, you know, every 5 years, with shares that are marked to market every day? You can't do it. It's actually
Okay, I think we've
impossible.
answered that. Are there any other questions on the floor, and then we'll go to the phones?
Yeah, how's this going to roll out? What are we going to see in the next little while?
Well, the key thing is really business as usual, is what you're going to see. In terms of how it rolls out, we're working jointly on the details behind the scenes of making sure we can work through all of that. So in terms of what you see, there's really no change in terms of what you see. But obviously we'll be working closely together on making sure the logistics get all pulled together, and clearly working on continuing the growth strategies in KiwiSaver, which is the exciting piece for both of us, and being able to add more value to our client base and continue to make sure that obviously things are going smoothly in the case of the GMI client base.
Could GMI investors see any changes at all, or will there be any movement there for them?
No, I agree with Paul. Pretty much for them, business as usual. I think the fact that Kiwibank is around the country, I'm just off the top of the head this, I mean, eventually we might have a better physical reach of our advisor, because our advisor force, if you want to put it that way, sits in a building 100 metres from here, and that's it for the whole of New Zealand. So, you know, we might be able to get better regional representation, spread them out a bit, because, you know, we've got housing.
And we have advisors across the country today. So there's a great opportunity, right across New Zealand, along with, hundreds of branch networks and stores across the country and small communities. So there's a great opportunity here to think that through. I just wouldn't have the answer exactly to what it's going to be right now as we work it through.
And could the deal, in a certain way, expose Kiwibank funds and customer funds to more foreign investment, more foreign exposure?
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think we're mixing up two things there. One around ownership, and one around where funds are held ultimately when you invest in various entities. I don't think we should mix those two things. So I don't think so.
So if you have a KiwiSaver account with GMI, your KiwiSaver account is still with GMI?
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
Are there questions from the phones? Sorry, I should just go to the phones if we can now.
To the ladies and gentlemen on the phone, if you would like to ask a question, please press star followed by 1 and wait for your name to be announced.
Any further questions from the phones? We'll take that as a no and come back to any final questions from the floor before we close.
How's Kiwibank funding the acquisition, and will it have any impact on the timeline as to when the bank is going to get self-sustained?
Yeah, well, let me answer that in two ways. First thing is it's being funded through internal facilities, so that's fine. In terms of the second part of that question around will it have any impact on the bank's sustainability, if you like, or profitability, that will be positive to the bank's profitability.
Did this have to go through the Finance Minister's office?
This was approved by the Kiwibank board and the New Zealand Post Group board, and obviously there's a no surprises policy to make sure that the government's aware of what's going on, but the decision is made by the boards under the SOE.
Is that immediate positive earnings, or is there a lag?
It's positive from day one. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.